Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back. I've just came back from the countryside, so there should be no trouble with uploading new videos today. That's a good news. So I'm gonna finish the story I started yesterday. The story is The Count and the Wedding Guest, and it's gonna be the second part. So let's begin and finish it. All right. 3 days ago, I get a letter from Italy, forwarded from Poughkeepsie, saying that Fernanda had been killed in a gondola accident. That is why I'm in the mourning. My heart, Mr. Donovan, will remain forever with this grave. I guess I'm poor company, Mr. Donovan, but I cannot take any interest in no one. I should not care to keep you from gay, gaiety and your friends who can smile and entertain you. Perhaps you would prefer to walk back to the house. Now, girls, if you want to observe a young man hustle out after a pick and shovel, just tell him that your heart is in some other fellow's grave. Young men are grave robbers by nature. Ask any widow. Something must be done to restore that missing organ, to weeping angels encrypt this chin. That man certainly got the roast of it from all sides. I'm awful sorry, said Mr. Donald gently. No, we won't walk back to the house just yet, and don't say you haven't no friends in the city, Miss Conway. I'm awful sorry, and I want you to believe I am your friend, and I'm awful sorry. I've got this picture here in my locket, said Miss Conway, after wiping her eyes with her handkerchief. I never show it to anybody, but I will to you, Mr. Donald, because I believe you to be a true friend. Mr. Donald gazed long. Mr. Donald gazed long and with much interest at a photograph and a locket that Miss Conway opened for him. The face of Count Mazzini was one to common interest. It was smooth, intelligent, bright, almost a handsome face, the face of a strong, cheerful man who might well be a leader among his fellows. I have a larger one framed in my room, said Miss Conway. When we return, I will show you that. There are, they are all I have to remind me of Fernando, but he ever will be present in my heart. That's a sure thing. A subtle task confronted a subtle task confronted Mr. Donald, that of supplanting the unfortunate count in the heart of Miss Conway. This his admiration for her determined him to do, but the magnitude of the undertaking did not seem to wait upon his spirits. The sympathetic but cheerful friend was the role of he essayed, and he played it so successfully that the next half hour found them conversing pensive, pensively, conversing pensively across two plates of ice cream, through yet there was no din- dimin- diminution of the sadness in Miss Conway's large grey eyes. Before they parted, and the hall that evening she ran upstairs and brought down the framed photograph wrapped lovingly in a white silk scarf. Mr. Donovan sur- surveyed it with inscrutable eyes. He gave me this the night he left for Italy, said Miss Conway, and I had the one for the locket made from this, and I had the one, I had the one for the locket I made from this. A fine looking man, said Mr. Donnan heartily. How would how would it suit you, Miss Conway, to give me pleasure of your company to Coney next Sunday afternoon? A month later, they announced their engagement to Mrs. Scott and the other boarders. Miss Conway continued to wear black. A week after the announcement, the two sat on the same bench in the downtown park, while the fluttering leaves of the trees made a dim kines- kinetospheric, kinescopic, kinetoscopic picture of them in the moonlight. But Donovan had worn a look of abstracted gloom all day. He was so silent tonight that Love's lips could not keep back any longer the questions that Love's heart propounded. What's the matter, Andy? You are so solemn and grouchy tonight. Nothing, Maggie. I know better. Can't I tell? You never acted this way before. What is it? It's nothing much, Maggie. Yes, it is. And I want to know. I'll bet it's some other girl you are thinking about. All right. Why don't you go get her if you want her? Take your arm away, if you please. I'll tell you then, said Andy wisely, but I guess you won't understand it exactly. You've heard of Mike Sullivan, haven't you? Big Mike Sullivan, everybody calls him. No, I haven't, said Maggie. And I don't want to, if he makes you act like this. Who is he? He's the biggest man in New York, said Andy, almost rever- reverently. He can about do anything he wants to wit Tammany or any other old thing in the political line. He is a mile high and as broad as East River. You say anything against Big Mike and you will have a million men of you collarbone on your collarbone in about 2 seconds. Why, he made a visit over the old country a while back, and the kings took to their hotels like rabbits. Well, Big Mac's as friend of mine. Big Mike's a friend of mine. I ain't more than due, deuce high in the district as far as influence goes, but Mike's as good as a friend to a little man or a poor man as he is to a big one. I met him today on the Broadway, on the Bowery, and what do you think he does? Comes up and shakes hands. Andy, says he, I've been keeping cases on you. You've been putting in some good licks over over on your side of the street, and I'm proud of you. What will you take to what will you take to drink? He takes a cigar and I take a highball. I told him I was going to get married in 2 weeks. Andy, says he, send me an invitation so I'll keep in mind of it and I will come to the wedding. That's what Big Mac says to me, and he always does what he says. I don't understand, said. I don't understand it, Maggie. But I'd have one of my hands cut off to have Big Mike Sullivan at our wedding. But I would have one of my hands cut off to have Big Mike Sullivan at our wedding. It would be the proudest day of my life. When he goes to a man's wedding, there is a guy being married that's made for made for life. Now that's why I'm maybe looking for a sword tonight. Maybe looking sword tonight. Why don't you invite them? Invite him then, if he's so much to the mustard. If he is so much to the mustard, said Maggie lightly. There is a reason why I can't, said Andy sadly. There is a reason why he mustn't be there. Don't ask me what it is, for I can't tell you. Oh, I don't care, said Maggie. It's something about politics, of course, but it's no reason why you can't smile at me. Maggie, said Andy presently, do you think as much as me? Do you think as much of me as you did for the Count Mazzini? He waited a long time, but Maggie did not reply. And then suddenly she leaned against his shoulder and began to cry and shake with sobs, holding his arms tightly and wetting the chain with tears. There, so soothed Andy, putting aside his own trouble. And what is it now? Andy, sobbed Maggie. I've lied to you, and you'll never marry me or love me anymore. But I feel that I've got to tell Andy. There never was so much as the little finger of a count. I never had a beau in my life, but all the other girls had, and they talked about them, and that seemed to make the fellows like them more. And Andy, I look swell in black, you know I do. So I went out to a photograph store and bought that picture, and had a little one made for my locket, and made up all the story about the count and about his being killed, so I could wear black, and nobody can love a liar, and you'll shake me, Andy, and I will die for shame. Or there never was anybody I like but you, and that's all. But instead of being pushed away, she found Andy's arm folding her closer. She looked up and saw his face cleared and smiling. Could you could you forgive me, Andy? Sure, said Andy. It's all right about that. Back to the back to the cemetery for the count. You've straightened everything out, Maggie. I was in hopes you would before the wedding day. Bully girl. Andy, said Maggie, with a somewhat shy smile, after she had been thoughtfully assured of forgiveness. Did you believe all that story about the Count? Well, not to any large extent, extent, said Andy, reaching for his cigar case, because it's big Mike Sullivan picture in your you've got in that locket of yours. That's a cool story, guys, right? See you tomorrow on the next one. Thank you. Bye.